Okay, so we're still on Michi's book, Opening Concepts, and we're now into some of the advanced topics. And the one we're doing today is called Priming Battles. And I found this one to be very, very interesting, and but also challenging. And I haven't fully been able to incorporate it, but it does answer, or it attempts to answer, a lot of the issues that we come up with our that come up when we're trying to apply the proverbs. So, for instance, a lot of the splitting issues: do you split or not split? And we've got these criteria, and some of them are contradictory. So, and so it's not always obvious, even though the criteria are easy enough to see. It's not obvious which ones to do. And this comes up all the time when you've got do you break the mountain, which you unstack, or make the 5 point, or prevent your fight for the 5 point by preventing your opponent from making it, and so on and so forth. These are tough ones, because the proverbs sort of contradict, or they overlap, or it's not clear. So I think this is kind of Michi's way of this chapter, Michi's way of coming up with, okay, here's another way to look at that if you get stuck on one of the proverbs. And it's quite fascinating, but also it's not easy. So let's start with the basics of what he's trying to say. And we've heard in some of his early proverbs, Michi would talk about priming positions and blitzing positions. And so the blitzing position is basically when you have a stack on the 6 point or so, or the 8 point. And it's not so much a blitzing position as that you can't really prime from that, not easily anyway, unless you get double ones or something like that allows you to prime. So, and if you use anything else, it's pretty much a prime. So, so the first thing is to, and what he wants to do is to say, okay, let's look at your move that you can make, and let's compare the priming battle, what he calls the priming battle. So, which is basically, from a priming perspective, is our position better from a priming perspective than our opponents? And if it is, then we want to play the priming game. And if it's not, then we don't want to play the priming game. We want to do something else. So, and it's usually it means split. So if you're going to prime, you're not going to split. If you're going to not prime, then probably splitting is usually the right thing to do. And there are other situations where this applies, but that's a general idea. So, okay, so having said that, and that's complicated enough. How do we judge what is the better priming position? What's the better? Who's got the better prime? And so there are 3 criteria that Michi comes up with. So one is just who has the better. Well, when I the 3 criteria: who is ahead in the priming battle, who has the advantage in the priming battle. So there are 3 criteria. First one is who's got the better prime. And so here's an example. We'll look at this one. So who has a better prime? What can you say about it? Anyone, just for general idea?
I think the white checkers do, because there's no gap.
Yeah. Well, they're both 4, but yeah, the gap is a big problem. Gap is a big weakness in a prime.
And also, white can build his prime from either end of what's there now.
Yeah.
In front or behind.
Yeah, that's a good point. And that's the second criteria that Michi brings up is, okay, who can extend their prime? And so, black can make this point, and that's good. And he can make that point, and that's good. But he can't, unless he gets a 6-1, or 4-2, he's not going to do either one of those right away. And he's going to probably leave some loose checkers lying around before he does that. And the white here can come down and make the 8 point or make the 3 point. And again, not either, but but he's got the slight advantage here. And then when coming in, we can bring the checkers down from the midpoint without too much worry about being attacked from black. One thing that's important, not in Michi's formulation of this, because we're talking really early game here, but in general, the prime is do you have checkers at the edge of the prime? So here, white's at the edge of the prime. Black is not at the edge of the prime, so white has a big advantage from that perspective. But that doesn't figure into Michi's formulation, and that is because Michi is focused on the early game. The third criteria here, and this is counterintuitive because it shows what priming battles, how they're different from a regular game, and that is in a priming battle, it's to your advantage to be behind in the race. And anyone know why that is?
You won't crunch your board as quickly.
Yeah, exactly. The weakness of the priming battle is that if you crash your board, then you don't have your prime anymore, and you're in tough shape. And so that's that's one of the criteria to evaluate. And again, what we're going to do is we'll look at different moves that we might want to make, and then say do we have the advantage in this priming battle? And then if we do, we're going to make the priming move. And if we don't make the non-priming move. Okay. Let's go to first example. We find it here. Okay, so we have a 3-1 to play. And now first I want to let's look at it from the perspective, let's ignore the priming battle and what would we think is the right move, and then look at from the priming battle perspective. So we got a 3-1 to play. What can we do, and what are the proverbs that we're looking at here?
Well, you have you can't play a 6 and 5, so I guess that's a reason to split. But
Yes,
you can,
yes, right. That's a one of my proverb was well blocked, because we're well blocked. And Michi said you can't play a 6, so you want to step up for that. And then he had another proverb here for that too, for splitting. So we're in a position where we might want to split. And he also said split against the prime, and this is sort of a prime. He also said don't split against the primary structure or against a blitzing structure, and this stack here makes it sort of a blitzing structure. So we have and in terms of splitting, okay, black has not split his checkers or made an advanced anchor. So we've got some contradictory rules here, and that we're well blocked. That says split, but black hasn't made an anchor, it has a split. This is a blitzing structure, don't split into. So this is the type of situation where this view is supposed to help. So splitting rules aren't definitive here, I would say. We've got contradictory rules. But what else? It's not only splitting here. What else do we have to look at that's important?
Points priority.
That's right. We've got the 5-point. We can make it. As I've said, it's not a Michi rule, but in general, if you can make the 5-point and you don't make the 5-point, you better be doing something really, really good elsewhere, and usually 2 pretty good things, and preferably 3. So, I would look at this and say, okay, my first step here is 6 to 5, because I want to make that. I want to unstack the 6 a little bit more. We could make it from the 8-2 or even the 4, but I think 6 to 5 is better. And then we can decide, okay, what do we do with the 3?
I have an idea, but no clue if it's even near correct. What if you brought a builder down from the 13 even if he gets a indirect shot, he can only hit one of the blots.
Yeah.
And in a roll.
Yeah. Okay. So now let's get into Michi's. Yeah, that's a good idea. Let's
So
get into Michi's thing. So I think, you know, when you see this, your first move, I think, has to be here. You have to make the 5 point. That's really strong. And anything that you don't, I think, is going to be a blunder. And so now we've got a number of different rules or different moves we can make. Okay, we could bring this down. Now let's look at it as the way we each want prime versus prime. And let's evaluate, you know, what do we have in our prime and what's going on. So who has the better prime?
Well, classically, black does, I guess.
Yeah, three prime. This is a little bit better. They're both 3 primes, but we have got the gap here. Okay, so give a slight edge to black here. Okay, so who can extend the prime?
Well, that was my reason for bringing another builder down, because if you survive the next turn without too much more damage, you I don't know. If you don't get hit, if you don't get hit, you've got a lot of shots to either fill the gap or you know, build a point at least. And
well, yeah, in terms of you know, the narrow, let's focus on Michi's kind of narrow question. Who can extend their prime? With this stack here, this is why this is called a blitzing structure, is because it's very hard to prime from here. You got 3 checkers on the 6 point, and the only thing that helps is double ones.
right.
So white has a big advantage in extending. White can make the bar point with, you know, any 6, 1, 2, or 3, or 2, 3, 2, 2, 1, you know, all sorts of numbers, or he can make the 4 point with, you know, they're like, so the advantage here is overwhelmingly for white with this move. Okay, race. Now remember, being behind in the race is to the advantage here. So yellow or white is still behind in the race here. Okay, so let's put that back. Well, let's do this one. I think the other move you would consider is here. You've got signs to split. You want to, you know, you're blocked. And what are the, you know, so what are the advantages or disadvantages here?
Well, I mean, it's a start toward an advanced anchor, or the 21 can actually get safe, you know, with a high enough roll. But
Yeah, you've opened up your 6s.
yeah,
That's a Michi proverb.
That's an advantage.
Yeah.
And if your opponent gets a 4-2, then they have a gap in their prime.
Yeah. Well, worse than that, they've hit you and put you on the bar, and yeah. But the priming arguments are still the same, but our white's priming structure isn't as good from here, because he doesn't have that extra builder there.
I agree.
So in the priming battle, you know, if you didn't like the priming battle, you would do this because we weakened our priming chances by not bringing this checker down and putting this up where he's under attack. So, and you know, and that's the issue here. He's got 10 in the zone. He's got the attack or the blitzing structure, and so we're kind of stepping into that. Okay. So that's the basics of the analysis, and I wouldn't say that that's easy. You know, this is not. And so let's look at the right answer. Yeah, and the right answer is to come down.
Oh goodness, I had it right.
Yeah.
All right, Betsy.
That's good.
So, you know, so there's the rationale. And again, you know, this, I don't think this is easy. This is why this is an advanced topic. So, you know, but it does, I think if you get the feel for this, I think it helps a little bit for these difficult decisions, particularly on the splitting where you've got contradictory things and it's not clear.
Gary, when you look at the prime, do you give any value more or less if the prime is in your inner board versus not in your inner board?
Well, not for Michi's from Michi's perspective, not in the early game. The idea is because usually the bar point is a big component of that prime, and so if you extend it too far, you're not going to be able to make the bar point as easily because you brought checkers from the back into the board. So the answer to your question is not really, not at this point.
Not yet. Yeah.
Late, and remember, we're talking about, these are opening concepts. So we're talking about the early game. So, this is early on in the game. Later on, those, the prime is a different matter. Particularly if you can, if you want them, there's a reason why the 5 and the 4 point are better. Those are inner board points. Those are good, not necessarily for the prime, but just for contact. You put your opponent on the bar and you've got a 4-point board. That's a pretty strong position to be in. Okay, let's go to the next one. Okay, so what do we have here?
White could be in some trouble really, really quick because black has got some good priming position as well as blitz. I think opportunities there. He's also escaped one of his back checkers. Even though he's behind on his home points, he certainly brought a lot of builders in. He's got a lot of ammunition and opportunities if White starts thinking about, trying to escape from back there.
Yeah, yeah. Black has 12 checkers in the zone. That's a pretty strong position.
So my argument not to split the back checkers, I guess, is what I should have said.
Yeah. So let's look. Do we want to split? Well, first of all, again, we've got this move. Oops. Down here, the first of the 5 we should be seeing to make this point.
Okay.
And hopefully that's the first thing that you should see is, okay, we got to move this 5 here to make that position. So the next question is, do we bring another one in or do we split? And so let's look at the splitting rules. Okay, we're well blocked. That tells us to split. We don't have good 6s. That tells us to split. But we've got 13 checkers in the zone. That tells us not to split. There's the blitzing structure, which I think is less important here. Just the 4 builders here tell us, don't split. Lots of danger here. But again, you have things to split or not split. So let's now look at the priming structure. If we don't split, here's our prime. Okay, so now let's go through the priming criteria. Who has the better prime here?
White.
Well, White, yeah,
4.5 points.
4 versus 3, yeah.
Right.
This is as good as you get early in the game. So who's going to be able to extend it?
White.
White has a good chance. He needs a direct 4 to extend it. We can extend it on the front end.
5-2.
So now Black is not in terrible position either, because again we can add it, but only bring it up to a 4 prime like we have in Black, and you give up the midpoint. You've got a number of rolls that make this. More than likely, you'll make a 4 point. Yeah, maybe not 4 point. Have to make the 4 point or the 3 point or something like that. So slight advantage here to White. Now, what about the race?
Advantage white.
Advantage white, yeah, white's way behind in the race. So, you know, all these things point to, you know, we like the priming battle better than the non-priming battle. If we didn't like the priming battle, we would step up. So. let's put
I
that.
have a thought just briefly. If you did move your 24 to 20, after first you bring your 5 down from the 13, now you've got a 4. And if you did, I see this all the time when I play, that people think, well, if I don't get at least one checker moving from the back, you know, I'll never get them out. I'll just be stuck on the 24 point. I know I was guilty of that for a long time.
Yeah.
At least get a checker moving.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
and
see where that's not necessarily a good idea in this case, for sure.
well, yeah, this is, I think the idea here is this, the old adage, if you're behind in the race, don't race. And here we're way behind, white's way behind in the race, 29 pips. So, you know, you might want to, I mean, you could bring the back checker all the way up here.
Correct.
And, but
Correct.
once you do that, you're still behind by 20 pips.
Right.
And now you're left with a lone checker. And what's going to happen is black is going to kind of snake his prime forward and eventually go on the attack.
So is this a situation where they say leave the goalkeepers back there for now? I mean, if you roll double 4s or double 3s or something, you know, that's different. But
Yeah.
at least for this move, it's just a better judgment to leave those 2 back there on the 24, just to leave them alone, at least for this roll.
Yeah, well, this is, you know, kind of Michi's conception is, okay, you know, here's the priming move. And do we like this better than this? And if you look at the you know, the criteria, yeah, there, you know, obviously disadvantage here is that you're going to get hit. You've got, I don't know if you're familiar with the, you know, if you count the number of builders available to hit a spot, and then you square the number, you'll get the number of rolls that will point on you there. So for instance, here are 4 builders aiming at this spot. So there are 16 numbers out of 36 that are going to point on you.
What a cool trick.
So that's a lot. And once he made the 5 point, now the primes are equal and black has all these builders to extend it forward. So, you know, what you should be able to do is look at this and say, okay, this position is better than this position.
Absolutely.
Okay, and that's the whole idea of Michi's, you know, priming battles idea. Okay, now, having said that, I'll say that again, these, you know, these aren't easy. You know, and this is not, you know, this is a big enough difference, but it's not a, you know, not a huge difference. We'll get into some that are bigger. Okay. Let's go to the next one. Here's an interesting one. This is a little bit later. In the game. So what are the
Well, first thing,
what do we have here? Again, we can split or not split, and that's probably the big question here.
you pretty much have to make your 5 point, don't you?
Yeah, again, again, the first thing you see is, okay, this is automatic, and if you don't do that, it's a blunder. And you know, everyone should be able to see that. That okay, the 1 goes here. There's no other choice. Okay, so then the question is, okay, what do we do with a 4? You know, hopefully you can see that this doesn't really accomplish much. And so the question is really, do we split here?
Yeah, yes, maybe, because except for his 6 point, he's stripped.
Yeah, well, so let's look at the splitting rules here. We're not well blocked, so there's no sign to split there. It's got 9 in the zone. That's not a sign to split. 8 point is stripped, so that is a sign to split. No advanced anchor. The 8 point alone is not a strong sign, but it is a sign. And are there any signs not to split? Not really. So we have a weak sign to split. Okay. Now this isn't one to sign to split, but notice that black has the 3-point board. Now our 3-point board is a better board, but still a 3-point board is it's a 3-point board. Now let's look at this one.
And the pip count's so much closer now too.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, okay, let's look. Remember, we're looking at the priming battle now. How does our priming battle look? Sorry about that.
Much better for white.
Yeah, white's got
Great.
a 3, solid 3 prime plus the broken 4 prime. There's the gap here, but there are 3 in a row. Black does 2 in a row and then the 2-point gap. This isn't much of a prime at all. Now, can black extend this? Well, not really. Yes, but the best he can do is fill in one of these holes. You'll still have a hole. What about white? Well, now white's got a bunch of numbers that make the bar point, giving him 5 prime. Much stronger position. So, and the question is, from the priming battle perspective, compare that to this. Now the numbers that make the prime are much weaker for white here, because it's only 6-1 basically, or double ones that help with the prime. There's nothing that extends it here. Whereas this one, now we've got 2-1. We've got what's the 6-5, 6-2, along with double 3s and things like that, double 1s, whole bunch of numbers. So the idea here is that this is clearly better. This is the priming battle that we want to make. Black doesn't have a good priming structure here. We've got a pretty good priming structure here. So let's play the priming game, which is bringing one down as opposed to splitting.
Gary, I have a quick question.
Sure.
When we talk about the zone, how many of the points in the outer board are included in the zone? I'm never sure.
Well, different people use a different criteria. So I consider the zone to be, well, from the start of the game, the zone is from the 11-point inward. But the way that I treat it is that if you've made the 5-point and the 4-point, then the zone, these aren't really in the zone, the 11-point. And the 9 is in the zone because you can move up with the 6.
Right.
So I don't consider these in the zone, well, I consider them partially in the zone. And when we talk about, do we have enough checkers in the zone to carry out an attack? I would count these as kind of like half.
Okay.
So,
So is the zone then points that can be hit by your opponent?
well, no, it's the zone. Well, I would look at it as hit by the point, but the zone is points that you can create a prime within your priming area. So for instance, this checker down here, well, now it's in the zone because you can use the 6 to make this 5-point. You move this checker here, now it's not really in the zone anymore.
Okay.
because it's, you can't make it here.
So
Okay,
you're
now
saying
it's
making
still-
a point in your home board, because
Yeah.
that he can go 11-7 and make part of that point, so.
Yeah, it's still, it's still a useful point to be, but I don't consider, and usually when we're talking about checkers in the zone, we're talking about launching an attack or blitzing or something like that. And this checker doesn't help you with the blitz.
Gotcha.
It help you with the prime because now you can, 4-1 or 6-4 helps you, make the bar point, but it doesn't help you, hit loose really. I mean, yeah, again, it's sort of half in the zone because it's,
Right.
it's another checker.
Isn't the other side of that coin that your opponent cannot hit you, plus you can't blitz? Aren't those two sides of the same coin?
Yeah, it's certainly better protected here from your opponent.
So you bring it up to the 9 point.
Yeah.
Now you can make the 3 or the 7,
That's
but
right.
also,
You can get hit with it. Yeah, the 2-6 hits it. Whereas here it's only 6-4, which I guess is the same amount of numbers, but
oh, right, 6-4.
anyway, so back here to the original, the answer to this question was, and here, this is a huge blunder not to split here. Because your priming structure is so good. You want to go with the prime here. All right, let's look at the next one. This is for.
Yeah.
Oh, back to our old friend.
Yeah.
That we've gone over this one before, and actually the next one is a similar one. So yeah, what are we thinking about here?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, okay. Back when I say that, what's the proverbs here?
No, I'm sorry.
Yeah, hit there. Yeah, there's Proverb 0, which again, that wasn't Mochi's proverb, that was mine. But yeah, hit here. But it's really it's fighting for the strong point. And do we want to let black have that point, whereas we could make our own point? So it's fighting for the strong point. We could make our own 5 point. And as I said, it's not Mochi's proverb, but if you're not going to make the 5 point, you need to do at least 2 good things. So, what good things are we doing by hitting here?
We're sending him
We're
in
sending them
back,
back and we're threatening the
obviously.
14.
Yeah, well, for one, we're preventing him from making the 5 point the next time because he's got a lot of rolls to do it. A 1, a 3, a 6, and an 8 coming down. There are not many rolls that don't make the 5 point here. So we're preventing him from making the 5 point. That's certainly a good thing. We're sending them back 20 pips.
Right.
That's certainly a good thing. And yeah, we're putting a little pressure out here. That now if we don't, if he can't move this to safety it or hit us or do something, then we're threatening that. And we're also threatening to make your own 5 point if we don't get the fix. So a lot of good things there. Now, Mochi's, but again, this is Mochi's perspective here is this is priming games. Who's got the better prime? All right, so we can do this. Oops, wrong one. Okay. How does our prime look?
Well, he's got an extra builder on the 14, but they're pretty even, aren't they?
Yeah, there's nothing. There's no prime. Well, you got 2 checkers. They're even. Okay. Oops. Get rid of this one. Or we could do this one. And now we have the better prime. So yeah, we have the better prime, clearly. What about extending it? Now Michi says something here. It's a little bit tricky, and I don't. He says you can view this as almost okay, we have the better prime now, but we've given black the opportunity to make this bar point, or the 5 point, and he's almost certainly going to do it. So his argument is to view this as, okay, this is still the same prime. So that even though he hasn't made it yet, that we have equal primes. Okay, that's I think a little bit, that's sort of reasonable, but it's not quite. But in any case, we're pretty much equal here. The primes, given him that, the primes are pretty much equal. Black may have the advantage if he doesn't use the 6 to make the prime to make that more, so he's got an advantage there. Where the race is pretty much the same. So this is, I would call this kind of a wash. I think Michi calls this a wash. And this,
It's certainly one of the exceptions to not make your own 5 point.
yeah.
I
And so
would
this,
agree this is an exception.
our positions are still a wash, but we're up by 20 pips. Okay, so, the answer is, and really, without going through all this explanation, I find it just easy to remember this one. Hit him.
Because otherwise he's got too good a chance to make that 5 point. You had to disrupt his ability to make the 5 point.
Yeah. And the point is that, if he makes the 5 point, then you're at the same spot. You're in equal positions, where if you hit him, now you're in equal positions, but he's behind by 20 pips. Okay, so let's look at the next round of this. Double ones. Okay, same position.
Mm.
Oh, wow. Oh,
But now, okay, so, we can do this again, and same argument. We're in the same position, but we're up 20 pips.
well,
Okay,
if you want to make a prime on your own, then it's 2 down, 2 down. Yeah.
or we do this.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's give black, that prime by making the 5 point or going on, but now whose prime is better?
White.
White's better, yeah. Now who can extend the prime better?
White.
Well, white, yeah, 5 coming down or 4-2.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so this one, and it's not as, it's turned around a bit. This is still not terrible because it sends them back and the race is good. But the priming battle gives the advantage to white here. This one 5. All right, let's do one more.
By the way, Gary, I think you told me that Michi always does that 2-1 move that black did on the opening roll, right?
I don't know if Michi's done it against me. I'm not sure. I know Phil Simborg does it all the time.
Oh, maybe it's Phil. Okay.
And
That's
I kind of like it too. The black open 2, and I kind of like that too. It unstacks the point, gives you big chances to make that 5 point. And then if you get hit, okay, that's kind of a bummer. But if he hits you, you can't make a board. So in this case, here's a good example. Black, I think, is better off having gotten hit that when white got the 3-1 than having white made the 5 point against a split. So.
And when I see these two, people will say, well, why would you do that? You're gonna get hit. Yes, I will, and I'll still only have 2 back, but he'll have 3 back.
Yeah.
So that's how I.
Well, the idea though is that the advantage of unstacking the 6 point and making the 5 point when you're not hit is so much better. It's so much better position than you would have been. That's the rationale for doing it.
of course, then my opponent would roll 4-6.
Yeah, if he does that, then that's, or double 4s for that matter. But
Double 4s or something. Yeah.
okay, let's do the last one here.
Oh,
Yeah, so this one, yeah, this is a the 6-4 opening move. And which well, let's go through it again. Yeah, I don't think Michi, this is Michi's way of covering this, but I don't think, he, in terms of splitting, the automatic move is to split usually. Because he stripped his 8-point. And Michi didn't cover this when he talked about stripping the 8-point, but it's wrong, generally wrong to split when you've when your opponent's open with that. And so let's look at why. And the point is to do the prime battle. So what are the, look at it from a prime battle. So what has Black done by opening with the 6-4 to the priming game?
Block the ones.
Well, he's blocked the one, but in terms of the prime, can Black reasonably set up a prime now?
no, he's
Now-
got nothing, no, there's no prime value in that move.
That's right. This is a purely, this is strong that you made an inner board point, and so that if you want to carry out blitz and that sort of thing, you have a better chance of doing that from here because you've made the point. That's the whole reason for doing it. But in terms of the prime, you got three pips here, a gap, and so that you're not going to be able to fill that in, not very easily. And so you've given up, Black has given up the priming battle here. And so what's our priming move? Well, 2 down. And so what does our prime look like now?
Well, certainly better than Black's, but
Yeah.
it is
Well,
risky.
Yeah, right. Well, right now we don't have, neither of us have a prime, but Black has given up all his chances of getting the prime. We next roll should be able to make a prime somewhere. We should be able to extend the prime somewhere to either the 5 or the bar, or maybe even the 4, which is not ideal, but it's better than what Black can do.
But Gary, how does this play out? Because aren't there different rules about coming out if splitting, if Black has made the 22-point instead of the 23-point, or the 21-point instead of the 23-point?
Yeah.
I
Well,
believe
yeah.
there are different.
Yeah, this is, yeah, I mean, you could either memorize this or look at it from the priming, and Michi wants you to go look at it from the priming battle perspective to show you why. But yeah, in general, your opponent makes the 2-point and you don't split, violating the rule of split against the stripped 8. And the reason is that the only strategy Black has from here is to hit. And so when you step up, you're stepping into his strategy, which he wants to hit you in the bar because he gets the better board. There's a chance that you roll a 2-6 or double 2s or that sort of thing. Again, you have the better board. You want to get contact because that will give you a slight advantage. Whereas opening with the 5-3, you still have some. It's still not great, but there's some minimal priming value here. It's much easier to make this into a decent prime than to make this into a decent prime. This you can't really do. And that's, so here you would split because this is as weak as it is. There's still potential for a prime there. Whereas this one, you don't split.
So the more potential for the prime, the more the incentive to split.
If your opponent has a better prime, that's the incentive to split because you don't want to be primed.
Okay.
Well, what if his 8-point wasn't stripped? Does that still apply?
Oh, well, yeah, no, again, you're splitting here. The rule is, Michi's proverb is to split against a stripped 8-point. So now the 8-point isn't stripped.
Okay, but
So now, now here, you wouldn't come out because now he's got another checker in the zone. He's got a builder there. There's no price to coming in and hitting you or making a point or doing anything here.
Okay.
You keep the 8-point.
my head was still on where you had your 2 black checkers on the 22 points. So that
Okay. Well, I think it's going to be the same here. Yeah, the bring 2 down, and that's, it's the extra checker in the zone and the fact that there's no cost to using this builder here.
right.
You don't break your 8-point.
Okay, thank you.
And then this too, the other thing, you put yourself a little at risk by giving him two fly shots. But if black has not split, then it's not that increased risk for it.
What do
And
you,
here,
what do you do if black is 2-1? And the black is split to 2-1 and you roll 4-3?
okay, what are we?
Instead of black being 2 checkers on 1, you got 1 checker on 1 and 1 checker on 2.
Okay, here, and now what do you do with the other?
Yeah, now you're no, it's your roll and you rolled 4-3. So how do you?
Okay, well, black has another checker to move somewhere to. So like that one.
Any place. I'm interested in how to handle this. How do you respond to his split with giving him much more chance to hitting your double bring down of 2 checkers?
Well, okay, so that makes bringing down 2 checkers more costly. But it also makes, this checker here, for instance, bringing one up gives you more of a target. So the answer is that it's a wash. Okay, so here was
Hit and split.
I guess it's not okay. So here's the tempo hit. And again, you have the checker here. This was part of the another one of his kind of advanced session is when do you well, I guess his concept was you can't make a point with a single checker. So you put black on the bar, even though this is the 2-point, which you don't really want to slot the 2-point here. But you do it to prevent black from doing anything constructive.
Wow.
And it's not as strong, it's not a play that you like. Your chances, your equity is not that great after this move. And it's only a little bit better than this split or that split. And this one, this is a little bit worse because you've doubled your chances of getting hit. So again,
Gary, real quick, over here on the left side with where the numbers are, what are those little red triangles to the left of the?
these.
Yeah, that's the green one, and then
I
there's
think these indicate that this has been rolled out. So XG, there are various things that, these little squares down here kind of tell you the strength, I guess, of the analysis. So the plus is kind of the strongest one. This green square here is a rollout, and so if you press that, you can do a rollout and it'll tell you how many number of games, and XG will roll out 1,296. I don't know how I came up with that. 1,296 games.
Thank you.
And that's kind of it. And these others are it's XG's hierarchy of how it figures these things out, because it can't do everything all at once. It takes too much time. So I think these. So the common openings, the common responses will have been rolled out, and they're in XG's memory. So often it's in the first or second roll of the game that you'll see these things. Okay, so let's leave it at that. We'll go over this again. Again, this is, there's a reason this, Michi puts this in the advanced section, and it's not that easy. But you know, it does, I'm not sure yet how valuable this is. Certainly, as you know, if you're a beginner, I wouldn't worry too much about this. I would stick with the Proverbs, and you know, if the Proverbs contradict, I would guess. If you're now comfortable with the Proverbs and you're looking for to get that, to get it right, and or at least to understand why. I mean, the 6-4 you can memorize that you don't split, but to fully understand why, then it's helpful to look at it. This is a good way to look at it. It'll help you understand things. And then of course, if you're really looking to be advanced and you're trying to shave off tenths of PR points on your score, then this is the type of thing that you would spend a lot of time on. And it does take a lot of time, because again, it's not the beauty of Michi's book is that the Proverbs are simple and easy to apply, and it's a matter of going over them, and they're not hard to remember, and they're easy to apply. This requires some thinking and some time. So it helps you understand things, but it's but not easy, not nearly as the bang for the dollar as the initial Proverbs do. But again, this is going to take you from a high level to a higher level, whereas the Proverbs were going to take you from beginner to intermediate advanced. Okay, enough of that. Let's stop the recording and let's get on to the Chouette.
Thank you for indulging